Hello everyone and welcome to my General Hospital Today channel. I hope everyone is having a wonderful day. Before we begin, please hit the subscribe button and give this video a thumbs up. Alexis learns Rick knows Christina almost killed him, and Carly plots against Nina. Today on General Hospital, Jason suggests Willow meet Michael in Germany, Drew requests a favor from Kai, and Lucky persuades Christina not to go. Ava, dressed in a new clothing and fur coat, surprised Rick in the hospital with the announcement, Ava Jerome is back. Ava calls a car dealer and buys a new sports car on the spot. Rick warns her not to spend her money on extravagant gifts. Ava claims she hasn't forgotten him and presents him with a limited edition Rolex to replace his watch, which was broken in the crash. He tells her that everything, including the watch and car, must be returned. Rick advises her that flaunting her wealth will alert people, especially since everyone is aware she has been struggling financially recently. She'll only raise red flags. She agrees to return everything except the coat. Ava closes the blinds in his room and tells Rick he's sexy when he delivers financial advice. She realizes that money is her aphrodisiac and crawls on top of him. He claims blackmail is his, and they kiss as she lowers his bed back. Alexis will not budge. In Alexis and Diane's office, Alexis hasn't been sleeping well, and Diane says she wouldn't either if her daughter was involved in an attempted murder. Diane believes that is why they should reassess Christina's admission to a psychiatric facility. Alexis insists that she cannot commit her own daughter, because it would destroy both her and Molly. Diane suggests they can commit Christina while keeping Molly in the dark, but Alexis argues Molly will investigate until she discovers the truth. Alexis says they have to leave things alone and hope the truth remains hidden. Diane claims there is one issue, Rick. Alexis cries to Diane. Diane believes Rick or Elizabeth may recall something that went wrong in the crash. She begs Alexis to follow her advice. Alexis says she'll handle Rick and instructs Diane to shred the commitment papers. Alexis walks away, and Diane returns the documents to one of her files instead of the shredder. Diane has a warning. Christina wants to confess again. Christina pays a visit to Liz and informs Lucky that she was there to ensure Liz's well-being. Lucky claims she's having a nap and will be fine. Christina reveals that remorse is eating her alive, and she cannot live like this. She tells him she has nightmares every night and nearly killed 2 people. Lucky assures Christina that everything is great, and that they will go on, but Christina believes she cannot. Confessing is the only way she can release herself. Christina believes she should confess. Christina, on the other hand, is aware that she will lose her sister, her family will implode, and her mother will most likely be destroyed. Lucky tells her she did a terrible mistake that she can't undo, but she can learn from it, make amends with her family, stop allowing her emotions govern her, and give up her grudge against Ava. Christina appreciates Lucky's willingness to hear her out. She won't confess. Instead, she'll learn from this and let go of her vendetta. All she wants now is for Liz and Rick to recover, and the people she cares about to be safe. Lucky talks Christina down on Trina feels guilty. Curtis and Trina are having coffee at the cafe, and Curtis thinks she would like to talk to someone about Kai and his operation. Trina is concerned that the procedure may fail, and Kai may become paralyzed. Trina understands that he needs her help, but she is unsure whether she can provide it. She believes he is making a mistake. Curtis talks to Rena. Curtis understands that she does not want to be dishonest with Kai, but sometimes their options are limited. It appears she has just one option: stand by Kai's side and support him regardless of the outcome. Trina feels awful about Drew requests a favor of Kai. Kai pays Drew a visit and informs him that he intends to accept his offer of surgery. Drew is pleased and offers to phone the doctor to get the ball rolling. Kai expresses gratitude to Drew, saying that he has given him the best gift of all, hope. Kai and Drew calls the doctor and informs him that General Hospital will receive notice of his arrival any minute now. Kai cannot thank Drew enough. Drew claims he can do one thing for him. He believes Kai should document his tale, calling it a hero's journey that will deeply affect people. Kai owes him, so he'll join if Drew thinks it's a good idea. In the hospital hallways, a nurse handed Portia some paperwork to sign. Portia notices they're hosting a world-renowned surgeon next week, but she quickly understands it's the doctor who will conduct Kai's surgery. Portia subsequently visits Drew and tells him she will not let him play with Kai's life. This procedure is risky and will not be performed. Drew claims it is happening and Kai is the ideal candidate. Portia informs him that Kai is not thinking properly and could wind up in a wheelchair. How would Drew react if he did it to him? Portia is unhappy with Drew. Drew would be devastated, but Dr. Mohinder will not let anything happen to Kai. Portia informs him that every procedure carries dangers. She is a doctor, and he should listen to her. He tells her that she is only still a doctor because of him. He wonders why he's still keeping her secret, so perhaps it's time for the public to learn the truth about her. They are stopped by a knock on the door. It's Curtis. Curtis notices his wife and inquires as to what Portia is doing here. Drew claims they were just chatting about him. Portia adds that she came to speak with Drew about not supporting Kai's operation, and Curtis says he is there for the same reason. Drew says the procedure is taking place, and Curtis adds they must hope for Kai's sake that this doctor performs a miracle. Curtis informs Portia that they are done here, and they storm out. Outside, Portia tells Curtis that perhaps the surgery will be successful, and Drew may have good motives. If so, perhaps they can stop fighting. Curtis responds, "Not likely." Kai and Trina hung Jeet. Trina meets Kai in the park, and he confirms that the surgery is scheduled for next week. He describes the procedure as a long shot, but it's all he needs. She admits she had not seen him smile like this since he was wearing his sweaty football uniform. Kai believes the prospect to play ball in the fall is what keeps him going. She vows to be in the stands cheering him on. Rick shocks Alexis. Alexis comes over to check on Rick at the hospital. Rick notices she is nervous and asks if she is well. Alexis claims it's just been a hectic day at work. He knows her and knows she just gets concerned about Christina. Alexis insists she is okay and inquires about his well-being. Rick urges her to stop it. She's not that stupid and he knows her insane daughter attempted to murder Ava, but he and Liz were the victims instead. Rick calls out Alexis. Alexis knows he and Ava are involved in a blackmail scheme. Rick confesses it, and she can thank him for not reporting Christina to the police. Rick screamed at Christina that she deserves in prison, and that she can put an end to this by telling the truth. However, this would kill Molly, but she would be rid of her nasty, selfish sister. He believes that for Molly to see Christina for who she is, and that Alexis will always protect Christina over her, is the best present he could ever offer her. Alexis observes that they have a long, horrific past. Throughout it all, she believed he loved Molly. When he departed Port Charles, she was responsible for raising their baby and providing her with a loving family, which included Christina and Sam. So why would he intentionally hurt Molly and take away her family? She has caved in to Ava's demands and begs him not to reveal Christina. Rick responds, "Because you begged so nicely. I always like watching your arrogance and moral superiority shatter when it comes to Christina." Rick informs her that the blackmail isn't the greatest part. It's that she has to steal from a child. Carly turns on Nina. Nina storms into Carly's kitchen with news. Drew's acquaintance in DC informed her that he is looking for an excellent realtor there. Carly claims they can't let this happen. Nina argues that Carly's anger at Willow and Drew accomplished nothing but forced them closer together. Carly is beginning to believe that is what Nina wants. Carly wonders if Nina's intention all along was for her to be the one to attack Willow, and Nina steps in to play the adoring mother. Carly does not trust Nina. Nina insists on having Willow and Drew over, but she is in a delicate position. If she is overly apparent about it, she risks losing Willow. She will not sacrifice her bond with her daughter for Drew. Carly realizes Drew has cost them too much. Nina also states that if Willow pulls away, she will have no control over her. She also believes Carly is in a much better position to be a mouthpiece, and what she told Willow and Drew was accurate. However, she did not enjoy Carly weaponizing Nellie, and does not want her to do so again. Carly feels that's fair, but she's done waiting for her chance to appear. She will get Wiley and Amelia out of the house, with or without her assistance. Carly and Nina discuss Nina observes that arguing with them simply keeps them caught in the romantic illusion that it is Willow and Drew versus the world. Nina asks Carly what she's going to do. Will she go to court to battle for custody of her grandchildren? No judge will grant her more rights than their mother, and she and Michael will lose their children forever. Nina's huge plan. Carly points out that nothing will change until Michael returns home. Nina agrees, and the more space they give Willow and Drew, the more relaxed Drew becomes. Drew will make mistakes, and she will tell Willow about them. She believes that if they continue the course, Michael and Willow will have 50-50 custody of their children, and Drew will be out of the picture. Carly agrees they're on the same page, so Nina leaves. Once Nina has left, Carly phones someone and says they need to talk. Diane and Carly, GH. Diane arrives and wonders what the hell she's here for. Carly informs her that it is regarding Michael and Willow's custody case. Carly wants to know if they may proceed with the case on Michael's behalf. Diane says they can't without Michael, so Carly offers to move Michael back here. She's had enough of waiting, and Drew may transfer everyone to DC at any minute. Carly wants to put a date on the calendar and keep it private. She wants Drew, Willow, and Nina to believe that this hearing will take place in the far future, only to be surprised by reality. Jason advises Willow. Willow approaches Jason in the Quartermain home and pleads for his assistance, calling him her last chance. She feels helpless, and he's the only person Carly will listen to. She begs him to tell Carly not to take her children from her. Jason believes Carly was correct in her statement. Willow and Amelia are everything to Michael, and Michael means everything to Carly. Willow understands, but she and Drew will be together, and it is not fair for her to put her life on hold while Michael recovers. Jason reminds her that he is not the one who can pull her out of this mess. She has to do it herself. He tells her that she must travel to Germany to see Michael, and finally put a stop to the conflict. Jason claims that part of the situation they're in is because she and Michael stopped communicating, so they need to be on the same page. Willow isn't sure if Michael wants to hear from her. Jason believes he does, and someone has to make the first move, so it must be her. Jason's advised Laura advises someone at the neighboring General Hospital that forcing Sunny out may invite someone far worse to settle in. Ezra meets with Tracy and asks if she's ready to put her money where her mouth is. Willow tells Nina. The simplest way to drive them apart is to tell her. Jason informs Carly that Willow is traveling to Germany to visit Michael. Willow informs Drew that she only has one person left to face. Alexis learns Rick knows Christina almost killed him, and Carly plots against Nina. The tension in Port Charles reached a fever pitch as long-buried truths began to emerge, threatening to shatter fragile alliances and spark new battles. Alexis Davis, ever the astute lawyer, discovered a fact that may ruin lives. Rick Lansing, a man with a tangled history in town, had been keeping a terrible secret, one involving Christina Corinthos Davis and a violent incident that almost killed him. The discovery struck shockwaves through Alexis, forcing her to face the realization that her own daughter was capable of such a heinous deed. Rick had silently carried the knowledge that Christina had almost killed him, whether out of manipulation, fear, or a perverted feeling of control. His relationship with the Corinthos and Davis families had always been tense, and this secret just added to the complexity. Now that Alexis understood, the question was, what would she do with this knowledge? Would she confront Christina, risking further deterioration in their already poor relationship? Or would she conceal the truth, allowing shame and anxiety to fester beneath the surface? Meanwhile, Carly Corinthos, never one to sit back when she saw a threat, was already plotting her own web of intrigues, this time aimed against Nina Reeves. Carly's animosity against Nina was no secret. Their feud had been simmering for years, driven by betrayals, custody disputes, and personal attacks. Carly was now ready to strike, armed with new ammunition. Carly was resolved to punish Nina for any perceived insult, whether through business destruction, personal humiliation, or revealing her own secrets. The timing of these disclosures could not have been worse for Nina, who was already struggling to find her foothold in Port Charles. Her marriage to Sonny Corinthos had been both a source of strength and fragility, and Carly's vendetta threatened to exploit every flaw in their union. If Carly is successful in her plot, Nina could lose everything: her family, her reputation, and her hard-earned place in Sonny's world. As these two explosive tales converged, the citizens of Port Charles were trapped in the middle. Trust was a precious commodity, and loyalty was continually tested. Alexis, split between her love for her daughter and her moral compass, faced an unthinkable decision. Rick, ever the opportunist, might utilize this information to his advantage, further entwining himself in the town's drama. Carly, fervent in her desire for vengeance, would stop at nothing to see Nina fall. Christina, whose past acts had now come back to haunt her, would have to confront the consequences of a fit of wrath that could shape her future. The General Hospital JH recap for Tuesday, April 22nd, revealed that Nina Reeves, Cynthia Watrose, was unaware of Carly Spencer's, Laura Wright, custody hearing plot, while Rick Lansing, Rick Hurst, gloated to Alexis Davis, Nancy Lee Grahn. Here's how the action unfolded in the Tuesday show. At JH, Ava Jerome, Maura West, proclaimed her return and blatantly flaunted her money with numerous large purchases. Rick explained why that was a horrible idea, as Ava did not need to raise any suspicions about the blackmail. After Rick gave Ava financial advice about progressively transferring funds to her account, she turned on and closed the blinds so they could have a hospital hookup. Diane Miller, Carolyn Hennessy, pressed Alexis at the legal office to send Christina Corinthos Davis, Kate Monsey, to a psychiatric facility, but Alexis refused and urged her to trash the paperwork. Diane considered doing as Alexis suggested, but she eventually filed the papers in an adjacent file. Christina visited Elizabeth Baldwin, Rebecca Herbst, while she was sleeping and persuaded Lucky Spencer, Jonathan Jackson, that the only way to free herself was to confess. Christina was having nightmares and struggling with guilt, but Lucky's confession convinced her not to blow everything up. Lucky was happy, however, when Christina promised to learn from her mistakes and abandon her grudge against Ava. When Alexis paid Rick a visit, he mocked her about how bad she looked and suggested that his memories of the disaster were returning. Rick then admitted that he knew Christina was targeting Ava and had accidentally caused his crash with Elizabeth. Alexis made it apparent that their ceasefire was over, but she was happy that Rick would remain silent, even if he was being arrogant and irritating about it. Over coffee, Curtis Ashford, Donnell Turner, told Trina Robinson, Tabiana Ali, about Kai Taylor's, Jens Austin Astrup, dangerous surgery and convinced her that she needed to find a way to support him. At Drew Kane's, Cameron Matheson house, Kai provided updates on his choice to proceed with the procedure. Drew volunteered to call the surgeon and get things started, and Kai was taken aback by his generosity. Drew suggested knowing someone who does fantastic documentaries after admitting there was something Kai could do for him in exchange. Drew wanted Kai to have his own hero's journey filmed, and Kai eventually agreed. At the hospital, Portia Robinson, Brooke Kerr, discovered that Kai's specialist was scheduled as a guest surgeon the following week, so she went to Drew's house to confront him. Drew threatened to disclose Portia's test results manipulation, so Curtis showed in and joined Portia in complaining about Kai's impending operation. Outside, Portia attempted to anticipate that the conflict would be resolved shortly, but Curtis saw it differently. Trina also met with Kai and discovered that his operation was scheduled for next week, so she stayed on edge despite her brave face. Nina chastised Carly in her kitchen for making waves at Drew's house and going too far with her comments about Nellie Benson, Chloe Lanier. Nina wanted to be on the same page about their partnership, because Drew was looking into real estate in Washington, D.C., which meant he might try to redirect Willow Corinthos, Caitlin McMullen, towards the children. Carly wanted Nina to do more for her end of the partnership, but she acted as if they were still allies. Nina assumed Carly agreed on a 50-50 custody split for Willow and Michael Corinthos, last played by Chad Duell. Carly later went behind Nina's back, summoning Diane for a meeting. After Carly insisted on proceeding with the custody hearing, she stated that she could handle getting Michael there. Diane informed Carly that the hearing might still take some time, which she understood. Carly, on the other hand, hoped to keep things quiet and give Willow, Drew, and Nina the impression that this custody hearing was far away. The trio would then be caught off guard by the reality when they arrived for their court date. Willow sought assistance from Jason Morgan, Steve Burton, at the Quartermaine mansion in dealing with the custody crisis. Jason encouraged Willow to take action by visiting Michael at his clinic and ending the battle in person. General Hospital spoilers indicate that Willow will follow Jason's counsel, but some unexpected news could change the game shortly. Nina is in the dark about Carly's custody hearing plot. Nina Reeves found herself in an increasingly vulnerable position, while the custody fight for Carly's son, Wiley, played out in Port Charles. Unbeknownst to her, significant developments were unfolding behind the scenes, leaving her utterly unaware of the legal maneuverings and emotional agony surrounding the case. Nina and Carly's tension had been growing for months, if not years, fueled by betrayals, secrets, and a strong rivalry that neither woman could easily overcome. With Wiley's future on the line, the stakes had never been higher, and Nina's ignorance of Carly's legal strategy only exacerbated the tension. For months, Carly had fought to keep custody of Wiley, the child she had raised as her own. Despite not being his real mother, Carly's bond with Wiley was unmistakable, and she was desperate to protect him at all means. However, the issue had become more complicated as a result of the intervention of Wiley's biological mother, Nellie Benson, whose previous acts had left a trail of ruin in their wake. Nellie's unexpected reemergence, or at least the lingering threat of her influence, had placed a pall over the custody procedures, forcing Carly to confront the potential of losing the child she adored. "Your Honor, I know I'm not a party to this case, but Wiley is my grandson. I'm not here to disrupt his life. I just want the chance to be part of it." Carly's head swung toward her, his eyes burning. "Your Honor, Ms. Reeves has no legal—" "I'm not finished," Nina said, her voice shaky but forceful. She took out Brad's document. "Carly's motion to seal Wiley's records isn't about protecting him. It's about cutting me out completely. If her case is so strong, why the secrecy?" The courtroom exploded. The judge declared a recess. The aftermath. The ruling was unexpected. "Given the concerns raised," the court responded, "I am delaying a final decision until a full review of Wiley's records can be conducted. Current arrangements will stand." Nina didn't win, but she also didn't lose. As the crowd scattered, Carly charged toward her. "This isn't over." Nina caught her gaze. "No, it's not." Outside, Nina sighed. She'd bought herself time, but the war wasn't done. For the first time in a long time, she was no longer in the dark. Nina, however, had a problematic relationship with both Carly and Nellie. Nina, Nellie's original mother, had fought with shame, loss, and a deep desire to make up for the time she had lost with her daughter. Despite the fact that Nellie had proven to be deceptive and dangerous, Nina felt obligated to fight for Wiley, if not for Nellie's sake, then for her own. Despite her personal engagement in the matter, Nina remained oblivious of the newest developments in Carly's custody case. Whether by design or circumstance, important information was withheld from her, leaving her open to whatever legal or personal bombshell would emerge next. The secrecy surrounding the custody dispute fueled Nina and Carly's enmity. Carly, ever the planner, had most certainly foreseen Nina's probable meddling and taken efforts to keep her out of the loop. Carly had managed to keep Nina from making any significant progress in the lawsuit, whether by legal methods or personal alliances. Nina became frustrated and increasingly desperate, as she sensed something big was happening, but lacked the information to act. Her efforts to obtain information were met with opposition, whether from lawyers, mutual acquaintances, or even Wiley's biological father, Michael Corinthos, who had his own motives for keeping Nina at a distance. Michael's involvement in the custody dispute was another complicated aspect. As Wiley's father, he wielded enormous power over the proceedings, and his ultimate loyalty was with Carly, the woman who had nurtured him as her own son. Michael and Nina had previously enjoyed moments of understanding, but their relationship had been damaged by Nina and Carly's ongoing animosity. Michael's top interest was Wiley's well-being, and he was willing to limit Nina's involvement, even if it meant keeping her in the dark about key case updates. The tension reached a boiling point when rumors spread that Carly had a significant edge in the custody hearing. Whether it was new evidence, a surprise witness, or a legal issue, it appeared like Carly was on the cusp of a decisive win. Nina became increasingly agitated as she heard whispers but did not receive confirmation. She couldn't shake the impression that she was being purposefully excluded, and the more she pressed for answers, the more resistance she faced. Her annoyance went to rage and her anger to desperation, as she realized that time was running out. If she didn't act quickly, Carly may obtain permanent custody of Wiley, effectively removing Nina from his life. In a last-ditch effort to obtain leverage, Nina contemplated contacting old allies, or even enemies, who could have information Carly was attempting to conceal. She was aware of the dangers. Surrounding oneself with the wrong people may have disastrous consequences, exacerbating her already precarious situation. However, with so much at stake, she was willing to take the risk. The prospect of losing Wiley, Nellie's final live link was agonizing. She had to try, even if it meant alienating herself further from Port Charles's elite. Meanwhile, Carly remained committed to ensuring her future with Wiley. She had battled and sacrificed too much to allow Nina, or anyone else, to derail her now. The custody hearing marked the conclusion of years of battle, and she was determined to win. If that meant keeping Nina in the dark until the very last moment, so be it. Carly had always excelled at playing the long game, and this was no exception. As the final hearing approached, the anxiety in Port Charles became tangible. Whispers of backroom agreements, secret evidence, and unexpected surprises filled the air. Nina, still grasping for information, could only wait and wonder what Carly had planned. The uncertainty gnawed at her, fueling her wrath and strengthening her resolve to fight back, whatever the cost. When the day of the custody decision arrived, the courtroom was filled with people anxious to see the outcome of this high-stakes dispute. Nina, seated in the rear, clenched her fists as the judge prepared to pronounce his verdict. She still had no idea what to expect, and the lack of control scared her. Nina caught her breath as the judge began to speak, bracing herself for the worst and hoping against hope for a miracle. The decision, when it arrived, sent shockwaves through the room. Whether the outcome favored Carly or not, the effects would reverberate throughout Port Charles for months. For Nina, the conclusion would either confirm her worries or compel her to face the terrible fact that some battles cannot be won. In either case, one thing was certain. The consequences from this custody hearing would alter relationships, reconfigure alliances, and leave no one unaffected. And as the gavel fell, Nina recognized that being kept in the dark was just the beginning. The real struggle was just about to start. Nina is in the dark about Carly's custody hearing. Plot full story review. The custody struggle between Carly and Nina on General Hospital has been one of the most emotionally intense and legally difficult storylines in recent years. The tension between these two women has been growing for years, owing to Nina's long-hidden connection to Sonny Corinthos and her eventual role in uncovering Carly's falsehood regarding Sonny's location while he was living as Mike in Nixon Falls. Now that Carly's kid, Wiley, is at the center of the conflict, the stakes have never been higher. The custody case has exposed both women's worst, and sometimes best sides, showing deep-seated resentments, powerful maternal instincts, and the lengths they are ready to go to safeguard what they believe is properly theirs. Nina's decision to seek custody of Wiley surprised many, especially given her convoluted history with the Corinthos and Spencer families. Nina felt motivated to gain a presence in Wiley's life after discovering she was his biological grandmother through her late daughter, Nellie Benson. However, her approach has been far from smooth. Rather than attempting to build a progressive, cordial connection with Wiley through visitation or joint custody, Nina launched a full legal assault, claiming that Carly was an unfit mother owing to her previous manipulations and the volatility in her life. This approach immediately portrayed Nina as the aggressor, particularly among Carly's allies, who saw her actions as vengeful rather than genuine concern for Wiley's well-being. Carly, on the other hand, has fought back with all she's got. As a mother who has reared Wiley since infancy, together with his adoptive father, Michael Corinthos, she perceives Nina's sudden engagement as a threat to the family she has created. Carly's argument is based on consistency and love. Wiley has known her as his grandma for years, and breaking that link may be disastrous. However, Carly's personal history has not been without controversy. Nina's legal team has plenty of ammunition thanks to her ability to manipulate circumstances, her history of harboring secrets, such as the truth about Nellie's identity, and her frequently harsh tactics. The courtroom scenes were passionate, with both sides making persuasive points. Nina's lawyers have emphasized Carly's history of deception, particularly her role in concealing Sonny's survival from his family members. They've also pointed to Carly's financial problems and the instability in her personal life as proof that she may not be able to offer Wiley with the stability he needs.